Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or whatever time of day you're watching this video. I'm Father Steve, Episcopal Priest here in the Episcopal Diocese of Maryland. Uh, just kind of refresher, I serve two Episcopal congregations in western part of Washington County, Maryland, St. Andrew's Episcopal Church in Clear Spring, Maryland, and St. Thomas Episcopal Parish in Hancock, Maryland, both of them in the Episcopal Diocese of Maryland. And this is chapter 6 of the study of the book of Revelation. And if you're watching this in the in the morning, cup of coffee for you. If you're watching this afternoon, in the afternoon eating, tongue-tied, cup of coffee for you. But anyway, again, hello. And we're going to take them, today we're going to look at chapter 6 of the book of Revelation. So if you're using this as your Bible study, also as a reminder, the questions study guide comes from N.T. Wright for Everyone Bible Study Guides. Revelation, 22 studies for individuals and groups. And I do encourage you, if you're doing individual studies or if you're watching this and doing a Bible study somewhere else, I encourage you to purchase this book. At St. Andrew's Episcopal Church in Clear Spring, we do Bible study on Friday mornings, in-person Bible study, and we use this book. And those of you at St. Thomas's in Hancock, you know what you're doing. You're watching this video and using the questions that I ask you and stopgap in this video. So anyway, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, happy fall, my favorite time of the year. So what you need to do at this point is you need to go ahead and read chapter 6 of the book of Revelation. And once you pause this video, once you read it, then come back, and then we'll get into a little bit of a study here of the book of Revelation, that mysterious book. Okay, welcome back. So what we have in chapter 6 of the book of Revelation, the opening of the first 6 seals. Now, these are my notes using different commentaries. The first 4 seals, there's a literary parallelism with the first 4. When the Lamb had opened, I heard, come, we hear that repeated. There are misfortunes unleashed by the opening of the 4 seals, the first 4 seals. They are closely linked to one another. The riders symbolize a conquering power and the 3 evils that follow it: war, famine, and pestilence. And these evils traditionally mark calamitous times. Remember this, when we take and go through and we look at this, the book of Revelation, remember wars, famines, and plagues reappear regularly throughout human history. We've had them all through human history, apparently arising out of natural causes. But in the eyes of John, they are a judgment of God, a type of a judgment, the least, of a judgment. So remember where John is writing this. He's banned to the island of Patmos, and he's going through a rough time, and so he's looking at these different things of the judgment to come. So now we'll look at these colors we have, the horses. White verses 1 through 2 is a symbol of victory. Fiery red, great sword, verses 3 through 4, bloody wars. The black horse, verses 5 to 6, famine and a ration of wheat. The ration of wheat to balance the scales of the wheat. And pale green, verses 7 through 8, as a little scary thought here, is the rotting of the flesh of a dead corpse. Then we get to the 5th and 6th seals. Remember, the 7th seal is not until we get to chapter 8 of the book of Revelation. But the 5th and 6th seals, the church appears persecuted and its members under the altar. Under the altar. Christians will be persecuted and become martyrs for Christ, but God will bring righteous judgment for those who persecute the Christians. So that's what we're starting to look at in verses 5 through 6 of the 5th and 6th seal and the people under the altar. Now here's a thought and discussion before I get into this book. Here's a thought and discussion. Christianity holds that the last judgment will not come until the number of the elect determined by God has been completed. So this could be like a getting on board type of conversation with this video. I'll repeat that. Christianity holds that the last judgment will not come until the number of the elect determined by God has been completed. So let's get into N.T. Wright's book, chapter 6. In each chapter, he writes a little kind of an intro and a backstory. So let me read this backstory to you that he has in his book. All doctors and all pastors know that when someone comes to them with a problem, the problem they talk about may not be the only problem they have. The pain that gets someone into the doctor's office may well be only a symptom of much deeper ills, medical or psychological. The fear, depression, or guilt that makes someone knock on the pastor's door is quite likely to be a second or third order anxiety which won't be solved until the first order ones have been exposed and addressed. And we often see that. This often lands the patient or the person seeking counseling in a position very like the reader of Revelation 6. We finally pluck up courage to go to the doctor. Now I'm going to feel well again, happy again. This visit will put me back on track. Wise doctors or pastors know that they must disappoint for the moment in order to get to the root of the problem and effect the lasting cure. First, we must find out when you have felt like this before. What have you been most afraid of? Soon the person answering the questions will feel uncomfortable. I didn't know we were going to get into all that. Surely we don't need to bring those things up again. It was a long time ago, and besides. Sorry, but we do need to. Unless we lay out the problems to their full extent, no real healing can take place. Unless the ills of the world are brought out, shown up in their true colors, put on display, and allowed to do their worst. They cannot be overthrown. Unless the four horsemen ride out and do what they have to do, the scroll cannot be read. The victory of the Lion Lamb will not be complete. So, kind of an opening question from N.T. Wright's book. Writes this: have you or someone you know ever gone for help for a particular symptom or problem only to discover that there was a more serious issue underlying it? Explain. Now, in the in-person Bible study just today, on this chapter, we talked about how somebody would go to a doctor for an issue and find out there's something more serious. And we did again get into discussion about that. But there could be other issues or something that in your past that maybe you can't understand why you're so sensitive to this issue that somebody else might not be so sensitive to. And then you can find out what the underlying issue was, something in your past. Okay? So now we're going to go to the first question from the booklet for Revelation chapter 6. Again, you can pause this video, and if you want to, or you can just run it the whole way through and fast write down the questions or whatever, or just take the questions you want to answer and do them at your will. But here's the first question. This comes from verse 1 of chapter 6. What does John see the Lamb begin to do? What does John see the Lamb begin to do? Okay? So then we're going to go, when the Lamb opens the first four seals of the scroll, instead of four glorious remedies for the world's ills, we find the four living creatures summoning four horses and riders, each, so it seems, to make matters worse. How are these horsemen described, and what does each seem to represent? And now that was from this piece of paper that I was just reading from, about the different colors. And so you may already have that answer up here, since I read that before we began. Okay. Now verse 8. What is the fourth horseman given the authority to do? Verse 8 of chapter 6. What is the fourth horseman given authority to do? Now I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. There's many more in here that I could go through, but I'm just for brevity and that. Because as with any Bible study, you can take, it's not say it's bad to go off track, but you'll get into a discussion, which is why you should do Bible study with a group. because you will not so much go off track, but you will bring things up that you think, well, I never thought that the discussion would go that way. That's why I'm not going to do all these questions, but a few. Okay? So here's a question for you, and this deals with the verse between 9 and 17, but more particularly verses 9 to 10 of chapter 6. Who does John see under the altar, and what is their cry? Now this generates some discussion with the Bible study I had earlier today at St. Andrew's. Who does John see under the altar, and what is their cry? That's verses 9 to 10. Follow along? Okay, verse 11. Why are they given white robes and told that they must wait a while longer? Why are they given white robes and told that they must wait a while longer? Why, Lord, why, Lord? And look at verse 11. Now this next question will go back up to the previous question and the comment I just made. There's a long tradition going back through the Psalms and the prophets to the children of Israel in Egypt, crying out to their God to do something at last. Exodus 2:23. This cry, how long, O Lord, how long, echoes down through the centuries and is heard again as the fifth seal is opened. How is this cry echoed in our own day, in our families, churches, and the world around us? Now, I'm not going to get into what's going on into the world right now as we're recording, because we can go back and play this video back again, but there are some things going on in the world today, in the history of our world, and but you will take and be able to, discuss that as you see fit of what's going on this week in our world. Okay, so this recording is October 13th, 2023. And if you happen to watch this video a couple years from now or next year or whatever, and you look back on what happened in the week of October 13th, actually today's Friday the 13th, but October 13th, 2023, certain things going on in the world. I don't want to get into it now, but you will get some discussion out of this. So the next question is, what series of events does the sixth seal reveal? What series of events? Now, two more questions I want to ask you, and this generates some discussion in my in-person Bible study. And this deals with verses 15 and 16. Why are the kings of the earth, the rich and the powerful, singled out among all the people who hide in caves? Why are the kings of the earth, the rich and powerful, singled out among all the people who hide in the caves, verses 15 to 16. Now, you have to look at the setting of this, what was going on with John, what was going on in the world, who were the people, kind of like give you another spoiler, who were being oppressed, who were oppressing the people at the time. Okay? Now, the last question I want to ask you, and this might deal with this what we just said about why the powerful and the rich were hiding. The only people who should be afraid of the Lamb's wrath are those who are determined to resist the call of love. In what ways might we respond to the call to love in the way of the Lamb and in our lives? Let me repeat that question. The only people who should be afraid of the Lamb's wrath are those who are determined to resist the call of love. In what ways might we respond to the call to love in the way of the Lamb in our lives? Okay. We can go on with some more questions from chapter 6, but that's a few of the questions from today for the study of the book of Revelation, chapter 6. Again, I'm Father Steve, Episcopal Priest, serving in the Episcopal Diocese of Maryland. And currently serving 2 Episcopal congregations, St. Andrew's Episcopal Church in Clear Spring, Maryland, located at 22 Cumberland Street, Clear Spring, Maryland, and also at St. Thomas Episcopal Parish in Hancock. We're at 2 East High Street. So anyway, there you go. That's our study for chapter 6, book of Revelation, and have a great one.